Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. If you want to get in on this Fan Friday, we'll be joined by Jordan Dajani. We'll go around the NFL with him. He covers the NFL for CBS Sports. But we got a lot to get to, but I kind of want to start with...
We still got a lot to get to.
We always got a lot to get to. This is the show just filled constantly with stuff that we got to get to.
I can't breathe.
I know. We're going to take a break a little bit from the Tennessee Titans because I do want to talk about that game last night.
Oh, yeah.
Penn State versus Notre Dame. Ooh. Notre Dame ends up getting the win. I came across a revelation last night, Blaine. I don't think I ever really hated Notre Dame. I think I just hated Brian Kelly. I think that's what it is. Because I find myself rooting for Notre Dame because of Marcus Freeman. And I think I just really hated Brian Kelly.
Oh, well, I can see. Definitely. Well, he's kind of been throwing the guys over at LSU under the bus.
Yeah.
So it might have been him. But, I thought Notre Dame would win. But, man, it was a great game. And, man.
Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter. Ooh, yeah, he looked like sure would look nice in a Titans jersey, don't you think?
Let me tell you something.
I know I saw 2 sacks. Did he have more than that?
I don't think so. But Penn State edge Abdul Carter finished the 2024 season with 24 tackles for losses, which is a very translatable stat to the NFL. It led all the Division I FBS schools and all that kind of stuff. But also, that was a number that not even Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, or Aiden Hutchinson ever reached in a single season. So when you talk about, when you're talking about the number 1 pick, okay, when you're talking about that kind of situation, when you're looking at it from Brian Callahan's perspective, I wouldn't draft a quarterback number 1 overall to save my life. And you know me, I'm a big Shedeur Sanders guy. But if I'm talking about my own career longevity, the best path is finding a guy that you feel like you can win 9 games with in the veteran pool and build the roster. And I tell you, Abdul Carter is legit.
Yeah.
He played with a bum shoulder last night. Basically playing with one arm and was whipping people. He's been doing that for
a little bit though, right?
Yeah. He's amazing. And everything you look at, he's good. And I love Travis Hunter too. So right now I'm having to shift quarterback in the terms of this. I'm putting quarterback as my 4th favorite option.
And you're talking about your ranking.
My ranking.
Just their NFL grade. I'm going to go. That means the better athlete, but that don't mean that's who the quarterbacks take.
So my ranking of preferences of what the Titans do at number 1.
Myles Garrett was number 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
as far as how the Titans, how Brian Callahan should likely save his job, he should avoid drafting a quarterback. So I'm putting that number 4 for that reason. Trade back is obviously in there, and then Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are also in there.
Is it because you don't, before you go, because you're just not just all in on the 2 top-rated quarterbacks?
Here's the thing.
Okay, so could you change your mind?
I'm against... And I talked about this with Caleb Williams. I am against a lame duck head coach drafting a quarterback.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And here's why. Because he is, for everything that we have read, and we read their comments directly on the air, the comments that they had about the quarterback position yesterday. And about this, I'm sorry, not about the quarterback position, but about Brian Callahan's quote-unquote job security. That not many people... First off, not many head coaches that draft number 1 overall survive the season. Not many do. There was 2 over. One of them is Zach Taylor. So that extends to not many people that draft a quarterback in the top make it the next season.
Yeah, you danged if you do, you danged if you don't.
Right.
Because if you get a veteran and then he gets injured or not playing well, then they're going to be forced to put the youngster out there. He's not ready, so you still keep losing games, and then you're somewhere probably
because
not
even
as bad
if you
as
get
3
the
wins,
veteran,
but
right?
5, 6 wins, 7 wins, maybe.
A lot of people are like, okay, the veteran.
Who that may be.
Whoever that may be, we don't know. But people are like, well, then you could still draft Shedeur and or Cam Warren, you could sit him behind him. Well, how long? What happens first? Coaching firing or quarterback change?
Yeah, Bananas will be hollering, put the young quarterback
That's
out
what
there.
he would be doing.
Yeah.
No. Because I don't think they should draft one of these young quarterbacks at number one. I don't think that you should try and force a quarterback that's probably not going to fit in this system just because you need a quarterback. For Brian Callahan, I think that's the quickest way to get him fired. Is to put all your chips in one basket, which is what they'll do if they draft a quarterback at number one. That's why I'm on the trade back and get the best available player train.
Not too far back, though.
No. I hope they stay in the top 5. Yeah. I'm thinking probably the Giants are their best scenario to get back.
Maybe the
drop down to 3.
Maybe the Browns.
Maybe the Browns at 2.
You see Watson towards Achilles again.
Yeah, they do need a quarterback, but it just really depends on if the Titans can make the Browns believe that they're going to take their guy.
Right. So let me clarify something. I don't think the veteran quarterback saves his job either. Right?
No, exactly, no.
I'm talking about the highest probability. What gives Brian Callahan the highest probability to save his job?
It's
because right now, all apologies to Brian Callahan, I don't see him being here in 2026. And when you do that, Blaine, do you draft a quarterback, a young quarterback who will be going from a college system to a new system and then to another system?
Whoa, wait, time out. You just made me think. He may not even get a say-so what quarterback they take.
Well, no, because if you read the reports from Albert Breer, Brian Callahan answers to whatever a quote-unquote general manager is hired, who that guy answers to Chad Brinker, who has final say of football operations.
Oh, no.
So that they may make the mistake of drafting a quarterback high,
the fall guy.
And then they make him the fall guy, and then they bring in another guy with another system for a quarterback.
Chess versus
I'm just saying, for Brian Callahan's purposes, for the probability for him, the best probability for him to keep his job is to not draft a quarterback number 1 overall. That's just my opinion.
Now, but at some point, and then did that mean on your radar then you're keeping Levis as your 2? Because it could eventually get to that. I know it may not matter.
You know what?
But it may not matter.
Just do it.
But he's still going to be there as a 2, which maybe at this point in time is where he needs to be.
Yeah. I mean, just do it. I mean, at this point, maybe you could trade him to get something. Because I think Levis, Simmons, Landry, all in the trading block. Monty Hooker, all in the trading block. Stuff we'll get to, later on as the offseason progresses. But listen, in the terms of self-preservation, you're not going to get year 2 with a young quarterback unless this young quarterback turns into Jaden Daniels, which is highly unlikely just in the big scheme of things of how the NFL works in general. So I'm not all on board. I think in the terms of Brian Callahan's self-preservation, I would make it known I am not on board with drafting a quarterback. And what Amy chooses to do with that information from there on in, and what Chad chooses to do with that information, that's on them.
You cannot say that publicly, Zach.
He doesn't have to say it publicly. He just has to make it known in the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because then you lose your leverage in the draft game.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
true.
There can get you fired right there.
Well, just do it after if you draft a quarterback, just do it in the presser after. So I didn't want him. But he needs to make it known inside that building.
Okay, I got it.
Because then if everybody knows that inside the building, then they can't fault you for when that quarterback likely fails. Well, they will. But at least you can say, hey, I told this person, this was not the guy for us.
But what if it works out? What then?
Well, if it works out, then at least you saved your job.
Well, they may hold it to you like, you really wanted them to fail.
Maybe. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We're going to go around the NFL with him because we got a lot of questions asking. What's the latest on Mike Vrabel? What is he hearing about this Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker tripod of power that is now only down to 2 people, but they're about to add a third.
GM list.
Yeah, the GM list. Got MVP races because this, Lamar Jackson just won just got his first team All-Pro spot. So does that mean that he's really a lock for MVP? Because the last 2 times he won MVP, he never was on first team All-Pro. Now, I think he probably should be MVP. But it's just interesting, how much does that actually weigh in? Who's going to be Rookie of the Year? We're going to get all of this stuff to Jordan Dajani. We're going to let him tell us what is real and what isn't when we come back. That's Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with the staff that the average auto repair shop doesn't, just so they can be ready for when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus, they're a 3-year nationwide warranty and a staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and we mean right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars. And Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 26 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always don't blame you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. We'll be joined soon by Jordan Dajani, talk some NFL and topics and headlines and from CBS Sports. Just a real quick, we were talking about that whole situation with, the quarterback and all this kind of stuff, just trying to give Brian Callahan the highest probability of staying, here. And when you really start looking at it, it's like, man, you can get Abdul Carter that is a certified stud. And someone in here, let me scroll up to the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV. On Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And let's see. 2021 this is from JD. 2021 is when Micah Parsons was drafted. Carter's comparison. So a lot of people compare Micah Parsons to Abdul Carter. The Jets and 49ers needed a quarterback. They passed on Parsons, Jamar Chase, and Patrick Surtain for Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. Just saying, that is kind of like a good argument to take the best player available and not draft for need. Because even Chad Brinker has said the worst time to draft a quarterback is when you need a quarterback. He said that on the Official Titans podcast back in February. Now, things obviously change from what you say year to year. But, I mean, I do agree. Sometimes, often, drafting when you need a quarterback sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It worked for Zach Taylor and and Joe Burrow, but none of these guys are really Joe Burrow.
And do you have anything to make you believe, to put your hands on, to say that's why they did what they did, whether it was going to get a quarterback or was it not? I think there's some form of luck, scheme, system, coaching, things that we can't even measure why it worked. I mean, naturally, the guys are all talented to go in the first round, but, I mean, we don't know what's in between their head, how focused they are, will they get rattled when they get into the league, or as you would say, seeing ghosts. I mean, that happens. I mean, so you can't predict any of that. So that's why I think it's been phenomenal what Jaden Daniels has done, and then compare that to what you got a stable organization, new but stable, as you could see, based off of the moves they made with the coach. They went veteran coach, and then the difference between him and Caleb Williams. See, and we all know who was probably the more talented, maybe by a piece of hair, but hey, it's worked out. I
hate when people compare this year or this team with Brian Callahan and then the Bengals when Brian Callahan was offensive coordinator in terms of like now to draft a quarterback, because Joe Burrow is not in this draft class. You're not getting a quarterback who just came off one of the greatest college football seasons for a quarterback in history. All right, like your top two choices had good seasons. I mean, one of them was a Heisman finalist, but Joe Burrow was on another world when he came out. Shedeur and Cam Ward haven't been. True,
but also you got to look at it like this. Everybody's like, well, you got to have the perfect surrounding for a quarterback to come in and be successful, year one, or to be able to draft a quarterback. And that's not really been the case ever. Usually, why you're drafting a quarterback number one overall in the first round?
Stink.
Typically because you stink, right, and you don't have a quarterback. So I get what you're saying, but I think the reason why, and I'm with you, you can't really equate these guys to Joe Burrow in terms of sheer talent and prospect readiness. So that's what I would kind of say. So that's why I'm kind of warming up to the idea. Abdul Carter has been one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I've always put him up on Travis Hunter, and really, this is probably the prime time to get a game-changing, game-wrecking pass rusher, because when's the last time they've had it? Javon Curse, like a young one that they were able to,
no doubt.
To draft.
No, I definitely agree with this, and I've been saying this the whole time. But, okay, you're the number one pick. Can you trade to 3 or 4, still get Abdul Carter, and then pick up a whole bunch of picks? That's the whole question. Easier said than done. And so sometimes you get forced in this position which nobody talks about, where they have to take a quarterback because nobody would play ball with them. At least give them what they thought they deserved in draft capital to trade back, 2 or 3 spots.
Tough spot to be in if you're the head coach.
Yes,
but you know what's not a tough spot to be in is when we get to talk to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports to go around the NFL with him. Jordan, your initial reaction when you saw the Rand Carthon firing?
What's going on, my friends? Thanks for having me on the show. To be completely honest with you, I wasn't too surprised. But I did not agree with the decision. I'm sure people wanted the Titans to either clean house or just retain everyone. So naturally, the Titans found a way to make both sides kind of upset. And I think that the dumbest part about this whole situation is the Titans putting it out on their official website. Hey, we're looking for a GM, but that GM isn't going to have final say. So maybe it's not your typical GM position, but it is a real job. It's just that you have to listen to Chad Brinker. And that was so different that the NFL had to sit down and review the job description. And it sounds like the Titans had to defend this brand new weird position. And by the way, the Titans have changed either the general manager or what the general manager duties are 3 times over the last 3 years. And I don't run an NFL front office, but adjusting the duties of an important front office member every year sounds not incredibly productive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely does not sound very I think Mina Kimes said it best. This is very erratic. Everything is very erratic.
But it did get approved, though.
Maybe.
It did get approved.
Oh, it did, didn't it? They did.
Wait, approved. Yes. I thought you said improved. I was it's not been improved yet.
It did get approved.
Yeah, it did get approved by the Jonathan Jones reported that last night of actually CBS Sports. Yeah. So in this whole new power structure, Jordan, who has the closest situation to this? I think it's the Detroit Lions. But you really can't find out what Brad Holmes' job description is, like his job duties and responsibilities. They didn't put it on the website. And usually you get those on team websites. But I know that he reports to the team president, Rod Wood, who's the president of the football operations and business operations in Sheila Ford Hamp. But we don't know who has how the power structure is divvied up.
Exactly. I think you ask a really good question, but unfortunately, it's kind of hard to give you a clear answer because front office structures in the NFL are not something that's laid out clearly for your typical fan to read. And it might be different than what people perceive it to be, from the outside looking in. So it's really tough to say. But I think that's kind of the interesting part about what's happened over the past week with Tennessee. The structure has always been a bit of a question mark with Chad Brinker, with Rand Carthon, with Brian Callahan. Who really has the final say? Is it the owner? And it's funny because it seems like we've gotten more clarity over the last week with Chad Brinker having that ultimate power to break ties in this triangle of power, if you will, in the front office. But at the same time, it's a bit muddled. I still ask myself, was he the guy that was breaking ties towards the end of last season? Was he the guy on the phone working trades and things like that? So it's really tough to give you another franchise that is operating similarly to the Titans because I would imagine those things are kept mostly under wraps.
So when you look at this whole situation from Brian Callahan's perspective, we've been kind of talking about, changing the tune of the highest probability of him keeping his job is to probably find a vet quarterback that fits the system rather than, and that doesn't even guarantee that he keeps his job, overdrafting a young quarterback. I mean, from the way they make it sounds like he's on thin ice already and on the hot seat already. Do you find that to be the case when you're reading their statements and seeing their actions?
Oh, 100%. 100%. There absolutely needs to be on-field improvement in 2025, or we're going to be talking about Brian Callahan being fired and the Titans going on yet another head coaching search. Plus, you just look at the pattern with the Titans over the past few years. They fired the GM. The head coach stayed. They fired the head coach. They hired a GM. That GM's gone now, and now they have Brian Callahan, who's next in the order to be fired, if you will. A narrative that's been discussed a lot over the last week around the NFL is having that consistency, that continuity with the general manager and with the head coach. Those guys want to be on the same page. Arranged marriages are not something that you want to have or force upon your franchise with your decision makers. And that's actually why the Las Vegas Raiders ended up firing Tom Telesco on the Thursday, the week of Black Mondays, because they wanted that consistency. All of a sudden, that Raiders job is probably viewed as a more attractive landing spot for someone like Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel because they can have some of these backdoor conversations about who maybe they would fit well with a general manager. So whoever this general manager is coming in, you have to wonder, Brian Callahan better have a good relationship with him because the Titans were the worst team in the NFL in 2024. And if something is similar to that in 2025, you have to imagine that Brian Callahan is definitely on the hot seat.
We're on the phone with Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports, and we're going around the NFL.
Well, since you're talking about the general managers, I guess give us, based off names and resume, maybe your top 2 or 3 candidates that you may like or is connected to Brinker or whoever maybe in the organization that you think have a great shot of, fulfilling that role.
Yeah, Mike Borgonzi, I feel like, well, first of all, it's really tough to hire a general manager. I feel like that's a really tough gig because not only are these candidates not well known to your typical reporter, but it's also impossible to know if some of these people are prepared for that kind of promotion, right? How many times have you seen a former general manager get rehired to that position with another franchise? So this is a major opportunity for all these candidates involved. But I brought up Mike Borgonzi. I feel like if I had to guess someone who is being sought after by teams with an open GM position, it might be him. Catherine Hickman, by the way, out of all these candidates, I feel like I've heard the most about her for maybe the last 3 years. But looking at her resume, she seems like she could be a Chad Brinker in the future, not a GM, right? Because she hasn't been a scout. She's been a vice president of football operations and now is an assistant GM with the Browns. So maybe looking at the Titans' statements, I don't know if she exactly fits the bill, but that's certainly someone to keep an eye on. Reports indicate that Reggie McKenzie is apparently a favorite, VFL. Ed Dodds from the Indianapolis Colts, I know, has a scouting background. But if you ask me, who I would like to see, if I have to think outside the box of who I would like the Titans to hire as GM, if this job is more about your scouting history, how about a guy with a pipeline and connections all over the country? This is a guy that the Titans haven't requested yet, and maybe they won't. He's already interviewed with the Jets for their GM position, but this dude has an extensive knowledge in evaluating young prospects. How about executive director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, right? He's got scouting experience, and I think he is your quote-unquote grinder. So if you want to be this franchise that builds through the draft, why not get the guy where the draft starts, right? They say the draft starts in Mobile. I don't know how he would operate in a traditional GM role, but if Chad Brinker is going to be the final voice in the organization, I think thinking outside the box for someone who is well equipped to handle draft preparation would be interesting.
No doubt about it. Me and I know Jim Nagy. I know Zach's going to be down there for the Senior Bowl.
Well, and to be honest, we know that Chad Brinker was down at the Senior Bowl last year without Rand Carthon, not trying to start any rumors, but maybe the coup started last year at the Senior Bowl. The coup starts in Mobile, not just the draft.
Yeah. Well, speaking of coups, man, did Deshaun Watson get a coup here, man? He had tore his Achilles again, man. Oh, man. This has to be, or you tell me, I'm just making a guess. You tell me, is this the worst contract in pro sports history or NFL history? Do we go that far, or am I just being, just overzealous here on my thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the worst contract in sports. I just don't have knowledge of baseball contracts or NBA contracts, right. But it looks like the worst contracts in NFL history. There's no doubt. I don't know what this guy did against the universe for the universe to hate him, or maybe I did. But Deshaun Watson tore his right Achilles for the second time. That news broke this morning. And he's expected to miss significant time in the 2025
the whole season.
Potentially. It's all about recovery, and these things are kind of iffy with a timetable, especially at this point in the process. But, hey, if the Browns were not considering drafting a quarterback, it's definitely more of a talking point now. But, man, this contract, he has 2 years remaining on it, I believe. Of course, it was fully guaranteed, $230 million. He's owed $46 million in each of the next 2 years. And the other big thing with your salary cap table is that Deshaun has cap hits of like $73 million in both 2025 and 2026. So moving on from him is extremely tough. He's going to be on roster next year, especially with obviously this news coming down this morning. But yeah, if you're asking me if this is the worst contract in NFL history, I'll have to give a resounding yes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, going from one ding-dong to the next, what in the heck is Tyreek Hill talking about leaving the game? Does he want to be traded? Does he want to be with the Dolphins? What is on his mind? Please tell me.
Yeah, I love Tyreek Hill, but I absolutely hated how he handled this situation. I don't think it's very cool for a star player to come off the field and tell reporters one-on-one, hey, I'm out. It was fun. I'm opening up that door. I'm gone. I mean, the dust hadn't even settled on your regular season finale. And for your leader in the locker room to say that is really tough. And I thought it was interesting looking at some of the responses from his teammates. They weren't completely sold on his words. They said, take him with a grain of salt. And sure enough, his agent has had conversations with the team's brass. I think Tyreek Hill has also had conversations with Chris Greer and Miami management. So if I had to make a prediction, I actually don't think he's going to get traded. I think he is going to stay with Miami. But he was certainly voicing his frustrations with him not having his QB1 for the majority of the season. He missed the playoffs, by the way, for the first time in his entire NFL career, so that's very different for Tyreek Hill. But, yeah, I didn't really appreciate how he handled that situation right after the final whistle of Week 18.
One more. We all know you're, ball graduate, and Mike Keith will be calling the football and basketball games here. Man, what were your thoughts when you heard that? What's some of your best memories outside of the Music City Miracle, man? Give us your take on Mike Keith. Voice of the
I mean,
Titans.
Mike, he's a legend. He's a legend. And, working in media, when I get to talk on the radio with you guys and write words that people read, I really appreciate the guys who are extremely good with their words. Broadcasting is absolutely an incredible skill that Mike Keith possesses, but he's also, from all accounts, an incredible human being as well. So I'm sad because he, of course, has been the voice of the Titans forever. But he's just going down the road to Knoxville, to his home. I thought that video he put out with Vol Productions was absolutely epic. It definitely gave me chills when I watched it. But he's an incredible guy, an incredible broadcaster. I'm glad I get to hear him on Saturdays as opposed to Sundays. But man, I think I don't know if I have a favorite call. Obviously, I watch the games on TV. I wish I listened to him more on the radio. But I mean, who's ever going to forget the Music City Miracle call? That was the biggest play in Titans franchise history. One of the best plays in NFL history as well. I can't imagine being someone listening to the broadcast on the radio and not watching the game at that time when that play took place. And Mike Keith sold it perfectly. So congratulations to him. I look forward to seeing what he accomplishes with his alma mater.
NFL writer for CBS Sports, Jordan Dajani.
Jordan, going back to the coaching cycle here and everything, I mean, Mike Vrabel obviously is interviewed at a few places, has interviewed at every job at a few places. Patriots, I mean, that seems to be the likely connection. Is that going to be the place that he ultimately lands? Or or they finished their interview with Ben Johnson today, is that maybe Ben Johnson's job?
Right. I think a lot of people are penciling in Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, but I'm not doing that just yet. I mean, is it likely? I guess you could say it's likely, but one thing I think about, or a couple things actually, is, if we erase Mike Vrabel's history with the Patriots, let's pretend he wasn't a legendary player there that won Super Bowls. Is he exactly the kind of coach that New England is after? Or should they be pursuing someone who is an offensive mind to develop Drake May, because that quickly expedites the opening of your Super Bowl window? So I think that's a question that needs to be asked. But also with Mike Vrabel, what is he looking for with this new job? He appears to be the belle of the ball from a defensive standpoint when it comes to this coaching carousel. Is he someone that is looking for some guarantees when it comes to say with the final 53-man roster, with some weight when it comes to personnel matters as well? Will there be a franchise that enters into some sort of backdoor bidding deal and they're able to give Mike Vrabel some more power that he is craving? So I say that to point to the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't seem like Bill Belichick is going to leave Chapel Hill to go to Sin City and team up with Tom Brady once again. Is Mike Vrabel someone who is interesting for Tom Brady to bring into the fold? So I think that's worth bringing up as well.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously with the GM job opening up, he could bring his guy Ryan Cowden that he advocated for here in Tennessee before Rand Carthon even got hired. So that kind of makes sense to me that maybe that would transfer over there. Well, how do you now view the whole Mike Vrabel firing now that we've seen what this Tennessee Titans team has done with Rand Carthon? Do we think that maybe this has been not a Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel relationship issue, and more so just an ownership issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can point to an ownership issue. I was someone who was certainly a Mike Vrabel fan, but with him being fired and everything that came out afterwards, more specifically reported in The Athletic, you understood why the move was made. And with the hiring of Brian Callahan, I certainly was someone who was cautiously optimistic for the future of Will Levis as well. Obviously, that completely crashed and burned. And, the national media kind of portrayed Rand Carthon versus Mike Vrabel as a power struggle. I never saw it that way. I don't think it was that way at all. But now Rand Carthon is gone as well, and that was someone reportedly that Mike Vrabel pointed to as, I don't know if this guy is exactly ready for this job. So I think the Titans, from a national perspective, if you zoom out of the state of Tennessee, they do look silly on a national stage because they fired the head coach who everyone is wanting to talk to now, while they are the worst team in the NFL, picking number 1 overall in the 2025 NFL Draft.
Okay, so there's 3 GM jobs open. There's the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, and the Tennessee Titans. Rank those in terms of, I guess you would say, appealing to GM candidates. Like, what's the most appealing to the least appealing?
I would say the Raiders have to be number one. According to reports, Tom Brady's had a pretty heavy hand with some of the decisions that are being made, not only when it comes to retaining or firing personnel, but also with the coaching search committee as well. I think that Sin City, that franchise there, is really trying to build something special and be aggressive when it comes to the acquisition of its franchise quarterback as well. I mean, living and operating and working in Vegas is attractive to me. So I think that the Raiders organization right now might be the top. Now, as for the Titans and Jets, I mean, it gets really hazy there. There's a little bit of similarities there. With Tennessee, you have the number one overall pick, so that is attractive from a general manager perspective. But, of course, there's all these things coming out about ownership. I mean, if you're someone on the outside looking in, you do realize that the NFL had to investigate what the wording in the GM job description was. That certainly raises some red flags, in my opinion. But when it comes to the Jets, they look like an absolute mess. They have ownership issues as well. Aaron Rodgers is likely on his way out. Garrett Wilson could be traded this offseason. Who knows? So I think the Jets would probably be last on my power rankings.
We're on with Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We're going around the NFL with him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You just said the name that, oh, man, it's a trigger word for their Zach. Aaron Rodgers. Oh. Man, is he connected to anybody in the organization that say that possibly he could be with the Titans? Dare I say Brink Truck?
You guys were talking about, the Titans process when it comes to how to handle the number one pick. What if they trade down and try to get the pass rusher from Penn State and they go the veteran route for a quarterback?
Yes.
My question is, who would that quarterback be, right? I mean, is it Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, or is it Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr or even Aaron Rodgers? I think it's really tough because if you guys ask me what I would want to do with the top pick before watching all the film on the quarterbacks, I think I would say I'd like to trade down. But there's no guaranteed path that you want to cross when it comes to acquiring that veteran quarterback. I mean, Kirk Cousins doesn't seem attractive to me. Aaron Rodgers after this past year certainly doesn't seem attractive to me. And that's why it's going to be so curious as to where they eventually land. I feel like we're going to see some movement in the draft order before April in terms of teams trading up to get a quarterback potentially. So where do these veterans land? You're going to have to look at some of these teams further down the list that may not be able to score someone in the draft. What is it? Maybe that's the Las Vegas Raiders. Who knows? But I think that the landing spots for some of these guys is definitely hazy. But I got to tell you, I don't think I'd like Aaron Rodgers in Nashville.
No doubt about it. I know I saw the MVP come out or the All-Pros come out, and it made me think about, Lamar Jackson and his MVP chance and thinking about his past couple years, I think Zach was talking about, and then will he win MVP this year? And I'm like, well, how much is being an All-Pro put you in, I guess, the category of MVP when you're the quarterback? You tell me, because if that's right, then he'll win it again. If not, somebody else is going to win it.
Right. I do think that the two are a bit correlated, but they're not correlated as much as you think. So with this question, I definitely look at Vegas and look at the odds. Josh Allen has been the favorite to win MVP for months now. And even with Lamar Jackson getting that first-team All-Pro nod, Josh Allen is still a relatively heavy favorite to win MVP. Now, could we see co-MVPs for the first time since, 2003, I think, with Steve McNair and Peyton Manning? That would be cool. But with Josh Allen, I understand why you wouldn't, but I'll make the case here with Josh Allen. The reason he would get my MVP vote this season is because we all expected the Bills to take a massive step backwards. They lost so many starters on both sides of the ball. On offense, Josh Allen lost his starting center and both of his starting wideouts as well. Yet he comes out with offensive coordinator Joe Brady and plays the most productive football of his entire NFL career, makes the playoffs as the number 2 seed, dramatically cuts down on his turnovers. That logically doesn't make sense. The Bills are Super Bowl contenders because of what Josh Allen is capable of. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, his team got better in the offseason, adding Derrick Henry, who, of course, has really supported Lamar's play on offense in 2024. That's why Josh Allen would get my vote, but I got to be honest, I am surprised to see that he is a pretty heavy favorite in Vegas.
One more question before we let you go, and that is, I know you're Steelers guy, but Russell Wilson's contract is up too. Who do you have winning Steelers, Ravens, and would Russell Wilson be an option if you are a Titan?
The Steelers enter the playoffs having lost 4 straight games, while the Ravens have won 4 straight games. Russell Wilson's play has completely cratered over the past couple weeks. He's averaging 174.5 passing yards per game, just 5 total touchdowns compared to 4 turnovers during this stretch. And, man, with the Ravens, I think they got too much firepower. The Zay Flowers injury does give me pause, but I'm leaning towards taking the Ravens at home. And, listen, it's a big spread, right? 9.5, 10 points. Oof. But keep this in mind. 5 out of the 6 wild card games last year were decided by double digits. So we'll see if we can get an entertaining slate this week.
I got one final question because we were talking about Tom Brady and that whole situation over there in Vegas and how involved he is. Are we ever going to see an issue where there's a conflict of interest with his announcing and his ownership stake? Because it seems like because it's Tom Brady, they're just letting it fly.
Yes. No, we're definitely going to see owners speak out about it to reporters. I mean, that's something that's already happened. In fact, I think that was the big reason why his minority ownership stake, took so long to be approved, because they had to draw up the Tom Brady rules when it comes to broadcasting and also owning the franchise. And here's the thing. You bring up a good point, because over this offseason, this very short offseason, this very young offseason, I should say, he's had a heavy hand, reportedly, and behind the scenes in what direction he's putting the Raiders on. So I absolutely think this is going to be something that is brought up time and time again, as long as Tom Brady has that gig with Fox.
Well, that will do it for us. Appreciate you joining us today here, Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We're going around the NFL with him. Stay warm out there.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Enjoy the snow day.
All right.
DJ.
When we come back, I'm going to give you a GM candidate that I think would be highly qualified for this job that is not on the Titans' radar currently just yet.
Oh, thank
This is
you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
It's a new year and time to start on your wellness goals. So if you have a nagging pain or injury that has been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities like golf, tennis, whatever it is, now's the time to finally take care of it. And that's with Edge Peptide. And the hormone therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating and healing and recovering from your injuries or pain. And Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal, and the ultimate goal is to always to avoid surgeries if possible. So reduce joint pain and inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function, just like I did with my shoulder, man. Wow. The new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make sure that happens. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some point in time, because you want the most aggressive pricing, and they have it in your area. So spend this month restoring what you need to, and so you can thrive for the rest of the year. And all you have to do is just give them a call. 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878 to schedule, or go online at edgepeptide.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. If you want to get in on the conversation, it's a Fan Friday. And, of course, we have the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. And, Blaine, we've been talking about, GM candidates. Of course, today, Reggie McKenzie completed an interview, his virtual interview, with Tennessee Titans, which at his age, I'm surprised that he was able to get on a Zoom and everything, because I know my dad has trouble with it as well. So
he's 61, by the way, for people who didn't know his age.
I looked at him, he's 61.
Yeah, and he's probably, he'll wake up, think about football, go to bed at 4 p.m., still thinking about football. So he meets those requirements. You got to wake up and think football all day. Yeah. So, he'll wake up early, go to bed at 4 p.m. All right. Career as a scout, job requirements for Tennessee Titans, because I want to give you someone I think that is a qualified candidate for the job that they're wanting to do. Career as a scout. Obviously, this is your background you got to have. Top flight, top level evaluator, major hand in setting the draft board, and comes from a consistent winning organization, has fingerprints all over the roster. So, obviously you're looking at your Chiefs, your Bills, and stuff like that. So I found a guy that I thought with his background would qualify. He spent 4 seasons as a pro scout for the Atlanta Falcons. He spent 5 seasons as director of player personnel with the Los Angeles Rams. He spent 4 seasons as director of pro personnel with the San Francisco 49ers. And recently, he spent 2 seasons and got promoted as the director of player personnel for the San Francisco 49ers. So he crosses off all the boxes, right? Been in the league for 15 years on the executive side and scout side. He's been, promoted. He's come from the Rams in San Francisco, pretty good organizations and everything. That guy is Rand Carthon.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was like, that sounds like Rand.
It is Rand Carthon. So the job that they're wanting him to do, he's perfectly qualified for. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, man. I was like, dang. Rand went to
I bet everybody's getting really excited, too. Everyone's like, man, this guy sounds good.
Yeah, because we value your opinion, of course. I was like, yeah, that's the same teams that Rand was with. Because I had no idea.
Yeah. So Reggie McKenzie, finished his interview process today, or round 1, virtually with the Tennessee Titans. He has crossed paths with both Brinker and Brian Callahan, which is something that should be noted, that he's crossed paths with both of these guys. Mm-hmm. He comes from the Packers. He's one of, word that here's what I want you to know about Reggie McKenzie and his relationship with Chad Brinker. I brought up the Chad Brinker interview on the Official Titans podcast from February 2nd of last year. Here's what Chad Brinker had to say. Reggie McKenzie, who I worked with as well, he's one of my mentors in this business. I remember he said, Chad, when you take over an organization, you've got to get a winner at quarterback, no doubt. Well, Reggie McKenzie coming in the interview. Now, Diana Russini reports that he's the favorite, and I'm sure that's what someone's agent told her to say. But Chad has taken over an organization. They don't have a winning quarterback, and Reggie McKenzie is his mentor. It's a pretty easy connection to make, especially if you're going to be angling to possibly get Derek Carr as a vet quarterback, who Derek Carr, Reggie McKenzie drafted, who Derek Carr, Brian Callahan has coached. Sometimes the NFL is all about those connections.
Well, there's a couple things here. First of all, I don't know when he did that interview, do I believe what Brinker says? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is, because it sounds good on the surface, and it's, he's complimenting a lot of people. He even complimented Rand multiple times. We can just play reset all the different times he complimented Rand Carthon, naturally, because he got hired by Rand Carthon. And number 2, how does it work now when you hire your mentor? Depends on how your relationship is with them. And that will determine, because sometimes when you've been the head honcho, even from McKenzie's point of view, now you then be underneath somebody. Are you ready to sit in that chair? And then your opinion is going to be voiced, but you don't have final say so. So that's all in consideration. And hopefully if your relationship is really close, then that can work out and seamlessly and be pretty easy. But if it's not, then you don't go down that road. I don't know if they're going to. I don't think he's probably the leading candidate, like Diana says.
I will have to say, the leading candidate
I think the leading candidate is Sullivan.
Right.
Which I said yesterday.
When Diana Rossini reported that, okay, so when Diana Rossini reported it, that, Reggie McKenzie was the lead candidate, this announcement hadn't came down. And that announcement is the Titans have requested permission to interview Packers VP of Player Personnel, John Eric Sullivan, for their general manager position. This is from Jonathan Jones. The Jets have also asked to interview him. He worked with Titans president of football ops, Chad Brinker, for all 13 years that Chad was in Green Bay. So
now,
I would agree with you.
Right.
This guy is the favorite. Now, whether he should be the favorite or not is a different conversation. But that guy should be the favorite. So I do want to be able to tell everybody some things about John Eric
That's
Sullivan.
what I was going to ask you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's a football lifer, son of longtime NFL receivers coach Jerry Sullivan, who still actually works with Justin Jefferson. John Eric Sullivan has proven himself an exceptional evaluator, a strong link between scouting and coaching, and a valuable safety net for Brian Gutekunst on anything in the draft or free agency. Sullivan's been involved in the cap too, has had a voice in the coaching search that landed Matt LaFleur, and even has been looped in on things like player discipline and strength and conditioning. As an anecdote, he happened to be the scout who first put Jordan Love on the Packers' radar. So, ton of experience, football lifer, comes from a good organization, has a relationship with Chad, and he's been involved in everything that they were looking for, right? He said, involved in the draft, strong search, was the guy that put Jordan Love on the radar, which, can I say something about that?
Okay, I'm going to let you do that.
Real quick, Jordan Love was already a first-round quarterback. Did you have to put that on your GM's radar? That feels like we're going a little too far with giving him credit for putting first-round quarterback prospect Jordan Love on someone's radar. Not to say that he didn't do it.
Right.
But if you're a GM and you had to get a first-round quarterback prospect on your radar, maybe this is from like 2 years before they drafted him.
Right.
Maybe he's from, the year
prior. Which could be true.
Yeah. But it's just like, that's a little bit of fluff right there, a little bit of agent fluff.
Right. Well, I was wondering, what was his biggest, let's say, regardless of what he was doing, his biggest title? And is the next step to be a GM, and is that a little too much of a step up?
So it would be vice president of player personnel would be, the biggest step. So vice president, if you want to take, you could sub in director of player personnel at that point for it as well. But this is his 21st season with the Packers and third as vice president of player personnel. He was promoted to this role in 2022. Okay. So, but he's been there at the Packers since 2004 after being a scouting intern the prior year. So he's been there technically since 2003 at the Green Bay's training camp. So, I mean, he's been a college scout, Southeast for the Central Plains region, for the Southeast region, National Football Scouting representative, all that kind of stuff. So he objectively, before you even get into the relationship, he checks the box of everything that they're looking for. Subjectively, well, this is Chad's dude, right? I mean, I think we can all say this is John Eric. This is the thing. And listen, it's not just the Titans, but this is how the NFL works.
Yes.
This is all a sham interview process. Because I would be highly surprised unless someone comes in and blows them away. This is the guy.
And sometimes getting blown away, it'll scare you too, because it's like, whoa, man, well, this guy could be actually a threat for my job. Trust me, that's how these dudes think. How do you think they got some of them where they are?
Well, apparently not all of them, because Titans had a guy who apparently didn't think that way.
There you go. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more information that has came out nationally from national media members about the Tennessee Titans and the drama going on behind the scenes. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. As you can tell, me and Joseph got to work a little early, and we had way too much time on our hands.
But that's exactly what I was going to say. But it is the days
But it is the days of our Titans. I have to say, there's something new that comes out every week. Of course, coaching changes should be happening at some point soon.
Today's Friday.
Today's Friday. You would think it's time to bury the Friday news dump should be on the horizon. It'll probably, you know what's going to happen? It'll be after our show. 3HL will get to talk about all the coaching.
You think some candidates for coaches are going to be gone?
I would assume so, right? I mean, wouldn't you assume on a 3-4?
Was Rand enough?
Oh, I doubt Rand was enough. But just to keep everybody updated, Titans' first round of general manager interviews are set for this weekend. Today is Reggie McKenzie, Thomas Dimitrioff, and John Spytek. Tomorrow is Ed Dodds, Matt Berry, Terrence Gray, Catherine Hickman, and Sunday's Mike Bergonzi and Ian Cunningham. No word yet on when John Eric Sullivan, who we were just talking about the last segment, is going to interview for the general manager position. Interviews will all be held virtually, and the organizational structure set up last year stays the same, according to Albert Breer. So let's repeat that. Interviews will be held virtually, and the organizational structure set up last year stays the same. Coach Brian Callahan will report to the general manager, who'll run, quote unquote, run the draft and free agency and oversee scouting, medical, strength and conditioning, etc. So that is from Albert Breer right there.
Oh.
So it sounds like, he has some things that he could put in place, but again, none of that says this general manager candidate has final say, because we know Chad Brinker has final say on all things football. To take it one step further, now I am just reporting what national media members have reported. Mm-hmm. This is not anything I have heard myself. This is what...
Are you sure?
Well, I am pretty sure on this. So I'm just reporting what these people have said. Charles Robinson and I tweeted this out this morning. Charles Robinson and Diana Rossini have said that people in the league told them that Chad was the, quote, GM. Robinson said since Chad Brinker has gotten promoted is when he started hearing other people in the NFL reference that. Mm-hmm. Rossini said, and referencing over the last year, anytime there was talk with teams about players and trades, they do business with Chad. So it sounds like that's going to be more of the same this year.
Was that because he usurped Rand with his new contract?
That's what it sounds like. I mean, that's how they make it sound. And I think the NFL saw the title change, and then they were like, well, let's update the Rolodex and update our numbers with the person that's in power.
Okay.
At least that's how they make it sound. Okay? That's how they make it sound. So in this case, if that is the case, then again, that's where we're going to be the case this year. Because Albert Breer said same organizational structure. And we know that Chad Brinker for sure now has final say. We were told Rand Carthon had final say, but it does not sound like that from any other report since then. I mean, Brian Callahan.
That's probably why Carthon's not here then.
Right.
That tells everything to me right there.
Right. Brian Callahan even said that they always came to a consensus. They're saying here that the NFL conducted business through Chad Brinker, who was in charge of the salary cap last year, president of football operations. Sounds like it will be the same thing going through this year.
Did you see this tweet by Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports, the lead NFL insider? So this is from yesterday at 6:30 last night.
Oh, yes.
The NFL has reviewed the description of the Titans general manager position, and the two sides have agreed that the vacant position will be the primary football executive post. That way that non-GMs cannot be blocked by current teams, because the NFL deemed it is not a lateral move, despite what the description seemed like when it first came out.
So the description that
we talked about this the first hour.
Yeah. No, the description that says, because this is what the primary responsibilities of the general manager per Chad Brinker is this, and this comes from paulkarski.com. Oversees the coaching staff, oversees the personnel staff, free agency strategy, draft strategy, integrating coaching into the scouting process. Some of those things an assistant GM does not do. So technically, this would be a promotion for some assistant GMs. So it's all about technicalities, right? The NFL is really big on technicalities. But at the end of the day, and he says, Chad Brinker in this same article where I just read those responsibilities, this is a real general manager's job, he said. But again, when I pressed him, he added the caveat, but I've got final authority on all football-related matters. So they still don't have final say on anything. He oversees the coaching staff. He oversees the personnel staff. He can develop a free agency strategy. He can develop a draft strategy, but he's got to do it to the way that Chad Brinker likes or approves. That's what they say.
You know what I'm trying to think of? When we had success with the Titans, we had Coach Fisher, who had a say-so. We had the GM, Floyd Reese, who had a say-so. Not knowing the real structure, but Jeff Diamond then was the go-between, and I think he actually had maybe final say-so that he would take to the owner, and then the owner then made the decision based off what all three of those guys were saying, but Diamond was the one reporting what was said by each individual. So I wonder if the Titans are trying to get to somewhat similar that structure.
And maybe they are, because he kind of says
playing what roles.
Yeah, but he's kind of saying like, okay, I'm doing all this over here. I'm taking this off the GM's plate. That's exactly what they did last year. The only thing they have supposedly have changed in this entire thing is that now they're publicly saying instead of Rand Carthon having final say, Chad Brinker has final say.
And also, let me not forget the great Steve Underwood. He was part of. He was the lawyer behind all of that. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I named 4 people.
Right. So I don't think it's necessarily as unconventional as they kind of made it sound to begin with. But it is. Because some websites, team websites, don't really put up and air, I guess, the dirty little secret. Quote unquote, the dirty littles. Does the GM have power or not? Because Brad Holmes, they don't list his detailed job responsibilities anywhere on the team website. And that is very uncommon. And they only say that he's general manager of the football team, and he oversees the draft of free agency, stuff that normal general managers does too. But in all that they say, he reports to Sheila Ford Hamp and the CEO/team president of football operations and business operations, Rod Wood. So, you get what I'm saying? Like there's that title, not a lot of clarity. Now worked out for the Detroit Lions, right? This power structure. And let's take it a step further. We know that Sheila Ford Hamp and Amy Adams Strunk, what have we talked about for a while now, since the Lions game? That they are great friends, they're close, and she wants to try to duplicate what the Lions are doing. This sounds like that's what they're trying to do. And that could lead to success. I'm not saying this will lead to no success, but what we're trying to figure out is providing us clarity, and maybe they don't care. Maybe it's just all about providing Amy clarity. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. But also, I look at it like this. Does this ownership, is it the ownership's behavior, the erratic behavior that she has shown, and this could be for any owner, because if you look across the league, all the erratic owners, they see bumps of sustained success, and then they come back down. Then they're down there for a while, then they come back up and see sustained or a little bit success, short-term success, and then boom, they're back down. So like, where is the path to sustained success? And that's what they got to prove. They not only have to prove that, hey, we can get immediate results on the field, but we can have long-term results. We're going to be a Packers team or a San Francisco team or a Chiefs team, a Bills team, the Ravens team. we're going to be that next team that is always circling the playoffs, that's always circling contenders and competitors. It may take a while to get there, but they at least have to start showing that they can get there quickly. Because this owner, they can say patience and panic all they want, patience over panic all they want, but we haven't seen that.
Well, your actions tell you what you're thinking. And so when they're not satisfied, they go in a different direction. So be it. So hopefully you say that they're going to get it right. And that's where I think they're talking about the patience. Playing, on the field and getting the right players and the right coaches at the right time is all timing and some form of there's some football guys and luck involved in all of that. So you got to get everything right up top first for that even work and have some consistency along the way. Now you can take some pieces away here or there, but at the same time, if it's not working, hey, I don't fault anybody. Say, hey man, we need to cut our ties and move forward, with somebody else. This is not going to work, and then maybe that's happened. We will see, because we all know in this league, it can change in one season. You can be bad to good. We just saw it right there with the Commanders.
But can you stay good? That is the real question.
No doubt.
And that's where this team, we saw the rise, right? We saw it under Mike Vrabel. Then we saw the decline and the dip. And then we saw how the owner reacted now 2 or 3 years in a row, trying to recapture that glory instead of trying to have patience. She panicked. They're all panic moves, and for the most part. I mean, they look like panic moves because you didn't have patience with hardly anybody, except for so far, Chad Brinker. You've extended him a lot of leeway and a lot of patience, and maybe it's deserved. Again, we're not inside the building. And maybe this will work. Again, we'll see. But that's how the Tennessee Titans need to approach it from a messaging standpoint. Instead of saying that, hey, we're holding Brian Callahan accountable, we're holding everybody accountable.
And I'm going to ask you something. Okay, with coaches, head coach, how does he keep his passion and lust when he has no say-so ultimately in any decisions made besides winning games?
I mean, he's just got to do, I will say it this way. He can't lay down. He's got to fight. He's got to fight. Listen, if their plan, here's how I view it. If their plan is to maybe they think that they're going to be a bad team and then be in a prime spot to be in the draft next year, and I was head coach, and I knew that I was on the hot seat and I may not be here next year, I would do everything in my power to win every freaking game and screw them out of being anywhere able to get a quarterback without me. That's how I would do it. I'm not saying that Brian Callahan is that guy.
What?
I'm just saying that's how I would do it.
He didn't get there by accident.
Yes.
I've been the other way.
That's correct. That's how I view it. I would be doing everything I can. And listen, that's good for the Tennessee Titans short term. May not be good for them long term. And that's maybe why they're going down this path. But this whole idea that, to me, their words about Brian Callahan, specifically in the Teron Davenport article that we read yesterday, you know what? Let's talk about it after the break. I'm going to read those words about that they said about Brian Callahan, and I'm going to ask you a question. We want to hear from you, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. I'm just kind of looking through Reggie McKenzie's draft class so far, and he has, so far, I'm in 2016, and he got 2 more years left. Let me go through real quick. He's drafted through that time 1 All-Pro guy from 2012 to 2018, 1 All-Pro guy, and 4 Pro Bowlers from 2013 to 2018. You do not want Reggie McKenzie here. Let me just tell you. His track record speaks for itself, and that's why during his time as GM, they were 40-72, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I remember. Who was that? Oh, it was Gruden. Was it Gruden?
Well, Gruden was there his last year before he got fired.
Oh.
And then it was Jack Del Rio. And I believe Dennis Allen and Tony Sperano were the other ones there as well. So, you know, woo!
I just remember them up at the table. Couldn't remember who was up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, as I said before, I don't think he's the leading candidate.
Yeah. I think
Great
anybody.
guy, though. Great guy, though.
Great guy. But anybody that is, you know, I think any fans, any media people that think that this would be a exceptional hire, you got to look beyond just Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Latavius Murray, and Amari Cooper. That's the 4 big hits out of, and the rest of them, some of them aren't even playing in the league right now. Like, it is not a good overall draft class, and that, of course, is why 40-70. He has a GM executive record of 40 wins and 72 losses. Just put that back in the back of your mind. All right. Teron Davenport released an ESPN article shortly after the firing of Rand Carthon, and Brinker and Burke Nihill have both talked about Brian Callahan in this piece. I just want to read this, and I read this yesterday. I've read it on Football and Other Efforts, which airs 6 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone, wherever you get your podcasts. Every Thursday. I don't think I said that. We believe in Brian, and we think he's going to get there, Brinker said. This wasn't good enough, and Brian knows that. He understands that he and his staff has got to be better. They want to see growth, and they'll support Callahan in that growth, Titans president and CEO Burke Nihill told ESPN, but they're going to hold him accountable. Brinker wants the coaching staff to allow the younger players to gain valuable experience despite the growing pains resulting from the process. But the growing pains from playing second-year quarterback Will Levis last season helped lead to Carthon losing his job. So, my question is to you, the listeners, and to you, Blaine Bishop, and Jackson, you can weigh in, or not Jackson, Joseph, sorry, bad habit. Joseph, you can weigh in as well. Does that sound like a regime that was really 100% bought in and wanting to bring Brian Callahan back? Because that does not sound like that to me. So I'm going to ask you, the listeners, if you weigh in, 615-737-1045. But Blaine, does that sound like a team that is 100% all in on having Brian Callahan stay on as head coach?
Read it again. It wasn't that long. I really just want to be detailed. It sounds like they want to support him, but they're not all in.
That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, the best way to put it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that anyone is forcing their hand or whatever, but it feels like they're half in, half out. Like they, you know what I'm saying? Like they're here to support him because maybe their jobs reside on, rely on him actually, being good. But it doesn't sound like they're like, man, Brian Callahan, he's our man. If he can't do it, nobody can.
Well, even with the GM not being hired, I don't even know if Callahan even feels supported because he wants to have some kind of chemistry with the GM and so they can speak the same language and everything else. And he's sitting in on the meetings, but if he likes another guy and then they like somebody else, or Brinker does, or, Bert does, then what then?
This is year 3 of a different GM.
It's like you're forcing a marriage.
Yeah.
This is year 3 of a different GM head coach combination.
Yeah, I guess. Sort of. If you say that Rand Carthon was the GM last year,
that doesn't sound good.
Well, okay. So
but I get what you're saying.
We had John Robinson, Mike Vrabel, and then we had Rand Carthon, Mike Vrabel, and then we had Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, and now we're going to have whoever, Chad Brinker / whoever, and Brian Callahan. So really, it's going to be 4 in the last 4 years or so. So to me, until the organization can prove that they can last more than 2 years with a combination, I will never say that they're all in on anybody. It just, right now, it doesn't feel like they are. Amy has had a quick trigger when things aren't going right, which they haven't in the last 3 years. And she's proven that, she will pull the trigger if she is not satisfied. And so for Brian Callahan, for him, I would be looking over my shoulder just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, because I feel like the draft can save him if they don't go a quarterback, like we talked about in the first hour. Can buy him a little bit more time because he can bring up the point of, hey, I still don't have my guy yet at the most important position because he just hasn't been there. But once we get him, but yeah, no, if I were him, I would be looking over my shoulder and feeling kind of starting to be pushed towards the outskirts just based on previous history over the last, 3 or 4 years.
We didn't play the music, but this is the days of our Titans. This is because everybody. I think everybody's on the same page here. They have inspired. They have given us no reason to have confidence in that. They have confidence in Brian Callahan. You know what I'm saying? They're saying, okay, yeah, we're going to support him as much as possible, but he's going to have to get these younger players out there and get them valuable experience, even if the results aren't desirable. Well, if the results aren't desirable, you're going to turn around and fire him.
Yeah. Well, I could say this. There could be some good to this. They could get lucky and get the right guy, and then boom, they hit it off and do great. But the odds are in the other way, and that Callahan is sitting there like the sitting duck. Man, that's what it looks like from the outside. So if it looks like that, he's definitely going to have some form of, let's say, paranoia about, when his time is up. And, he can't go out there and play for the players. He can only call plays. So, unfortunately, this is going to almost is very close to lame duck. We shall see with free agency and the draft where they sit then. And how much influence. And granted, when he comes on air, on whoever's channel, ask him, how much influence he had on some of these picks and free agency.
Yeah, I just kind of look at it as well, all the information that we're not just hearing from, obviously, their mouths, their press releases, I guess just say, because we haven't heard them talk because there hasn't been a presser where they can actually get up and answer some of these questions that we have, provide clarity. Everybody got mad at Rand Carthon for, not showing up for pressers, and they fired Rand Carthon and had nobody available for pressers. Isn't that kind of crazy? We're here a couple of days after Rand Carthon has gotten fired, and we haven't had one press conference where the media is able to ask questions and confront them, and they've just given us these, poorly rehearsed lines. Because, I think that some of the stuff that they say doesn't make any sense and makes them look worse. And I don't understand why they can't have a presser by now. Are they waiting for the coaching staff changes and then maybe we have a presser? Or are they going to have a presser after they hire the GM and then they're just, here comes everybody with their prepared statements and they're not going to take questions and it's just going to be the GM taking questions?
Oh, no. They definitely have to. When they hire a GM, they have to all come out there.
Yeah, but do they have to answer questions?
Oh, I think so.
You think so, but I don't think they will. That's the difference.
Yeah, you got to be able. You got to talk about the whole process.
At the very least.
Right, that's somebody.
What it'll probably end up being is once they hire whoever they're going to hire,
right?
Amy will give a prepared statement. She'll step back. Chad Brinker will give a prepared statement, take some questions. He'll step back. The new GM will come up, a prepared statement, and then he'll take probably a bulk of the questions while Amy and Chad Brinker sit behind him and let him, handle the media. That's just how this organization has been run. It happened the same thing when Rand Carthon got hired. It was the same exact way. It was it was Amy went out there, Vrabel went out there, and then Carthon went out there and handled everything else.
Yeah.
So nobody asked the owner any questions?
No. Neither when Brian Callahan was hired.
Were they told not to ask questions?
She just can't. Listen, I'll say this. Amy Armstrong, the times that she has done these announcements, has never, to my knowledge, to my recollection, specifically the hiring of Brian Callahan, she just came out and read a prepared statement and jetted. And then
she was still
Brian
up there.
Callahan
She
and
was
Ray
still up there,
Carthon,
though.
she stood up there.
Yeah, okay.
But no, she didn't stay to the side or anything. She went probably sat down after but she read her presser but didn't take any questions. Read her press release, pre-written, statement, and then didn't take questions and left. So here's what I'm going to say. Here's my advice to Brian Callahan at this general manager press conference that will eventually happen. When they go to take the picture of the head coach, the owner, and the new general manager, which they have done since Vrabel has gotten hired, make sure you stand on the camera left, Amy Adams-Strunk's right, because whoever's on Amy Adams-Strunk's left, camera right, has gotten fired. I'm not joking. When they hired Mike Vrabel, listen. When they hired Mike Vrabel, John Robinson was at the far right.
He was.
And when they hired Rand Carthon, Mike Vrabel was at the right. When they hired Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon was on the right.
Oh my!
So that is my advice to Brian Callahan. If you may be crazy, but you fight for that other side of Amy Adams-Strunk. You do not get on the other side.
Now, I do think, I'm not sure when, but I do think Chad Brinker will have a press conference next week. I heard that somewhere. Can't remember where.
What'd you say?
That Chad Brinker is, I think, going to have a presser next week.
I wonder if it's assumed that they'll have the GM hire by then.
I don't, that is with as many candidates, if they're interviewing, that is a quick turnaround.
Well, what they should do is just have
one because they already know who their candidate is.
Yeah, coaches changes, the GM, all of that in one. That way you only have to do one, and hopefully it gets, people miss out on asking how many questions they need to be asked.
Now, I do want to address something I saw in the chat about the don't draft a quarterback thing that I was talking about earlier. And it really doesn't have as much to do as with the talent of Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. More of the fact that how they fit with Brian Callahan. And because that was the problem with Will Levis is I don't think he fit in Callahan's system as well. And if you try and force another quarterback that doesn't fit in that system as well, and it doesn't work out, I mean, that just looks bad for Brian Callahan because, now you're blaming the coach, not the player, because that's two quarterbacks that have failed in this system. And Callahan is going to want to get a guy that can fit this system and run it efficiently. That's what he's been saying. So, not to say that Shedeur and Cam Ward are not going to go elsewhere and have good NFL careers and good rookie seasons. I just don't think that if they come here, the system will help them do that.
I actually like Shedeur for the system.
Yeah, actually. I mean, yes, over Cam Ward, yeah.
Yeah, over Ward. But I think the way he throws on time, I think he fits the system.
But I do, my overall premise is if you're looking for the highest probability of Brian Callahan, I mean, listen, maybe you're a fan that doesn't care if Brian Callahan's here next year or not. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, he's likely not going to be, but your path to success of having stability at head coach and not look like national fools for the third year in a row, fourth year in a row, be a laughingstock of the NFL is maybe to find some stability and do what's right to make sure that by the coach, which it will also transcendently, the transient property would be if you do right by the coach, you're doing right by the team. You should be putting your team in the best position to succeed and succeed long term. And maybe that is, sticking with a vet kind of quarterback and maybe riding with Will Levis on the bench. You never know how that could turn out. Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe stability is the way to go. I wouldn't bank on it, but maybe
the previous history, it's hard to bank on that.
Yes. Let's go to Jimmy, who wants to talk about the head coach. Jimmy, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, I was going to say, I think we ought to give him a chance. I mean, look at the coach in Detroit. Look at Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Mm-hmm.
the first year or two, I mean, they were talking about firing him. You remember?
Yes, they were.
And you know, I mean, we got to give him time. I mean, give him time, and I mean, he maybe end up being just like Dan Campbell, just a real good coach.
Yeah, but they didn't have a lot of changes up above him.
That's right. So you got to remember this, Jimmy. I mean, that we've kind of preached the scenario of what you're talking about. You know, the Detroit Lions and patience and everything, but they kept the GM above them, and they didn't get rid of the GM. So I mean, like, yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. To your point, I do agree. I think that's what they're trying to do, and maybe they didn't feel that Rand Carthon was the guy that could do that with the way that they want to do it. And that's true, but I thanks for your call, Jimmy. But like I look at it like that you're kind of throwing darts at the wall, hoping that you can recreate something when you kind of had something already in place like that.
Well, I think what happened was they then hence gave Brinker more power, and then the structure was all screwed. They were on the right track, and then he ran like, well, my hands are tied. I don't even. This is not even what I signed up for.
Right.
So then they say, well, then you got to go.
It will be interesting to see because I will say this. If they don't, and listen, John Eric Sullivan is qualified, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got the resume. He meets the requirements and all that stuff. But it'd be interesting to see, do they really go? Because, I mean, then it's kind of obvious, right? Like, I mean, and maybe they don't care about being obvious. Maybe they don't care about a slap on the wrist for sham interview processes. And maybe the NFL as a whole doesn't care. But, like, I do wonder if they don't go John Eric Sullivan or Reggie McKenzie, someone with ties, what does that mean about who made the hire? You get what I'm saying? Like, was that... Did he make the hire? Like they said that he's going to be in charge of the process, or did somebody step in to make sure that there wasn't a big too much consolidation of power for Brinker? You get what I'm saying? Like there's a there's the proper checks and balances.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm interested to see, is Burke Nighhill on those conversations? Or when does Amy then become a part after they get through all the weeds? Does she then become a part of these Zoom calls and everything else in interviews? So, yeah, it is interesting. And that stuff we'll probably never know. But I'm sure it's going to be some protection here from all sides, unless they are aligned. Well, do I believe they're aligned?
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Now, I will say this. There are some candidates with second-hand, I guess, second degree or second cousins to Chad Brinker. So Chad Brinker worked with John Schneider of the Seahawks, right? So back in Green Bay. So both Matt Berry, who is a so first Colts assistant GM Ed Dodds came from the Seattle Seahawks under John Schneider, helped to do the Legion of Boom, and then Seahawks Senior Director of Player Personnel, Matt Berry, who's also interviewing, comes from the John Schneider tree of, scouts and all that kind of stuff. So I look at it and I say, okay, those guys have some ties. They've never technically worked together, but they've come highly recommended, more than likely, from someone that has worked with Chad Brinker in the past. So those guys should not be technically eliminated, even though John Eric Sullivan is just interviewing, and Reggie McKenzie, they have more direct ties. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I get they have relationships with them, but they're not as tightly wound and worked on a day-to-day basis with them all the time. So you just never know, at least here recently.
We had been waiting to hear when they were going to do a Packers, right? So Tuesday they do the firing. They said that they would start getting interview requests on Tuesday evening. They didn't start getting announced till Wednesday. Thursday passed through. Now we're talking about Friday here, mid-morning, is when they finally announced their 10th candidate, by the way, that they have requested to interview, and it's the first one with direct ties to the new Packers regime that Chad Brinker comes from. So it's interesting to me that it took that long, and I think technically that request took that long so they can say, well, we really put in all these other interview requests first, trying to cover the tracks of the of that kind of stuff.
No, I will say they wouldn't do anything like that.
Outside of Reggie McKenzie is qualified, but as far as the rest of the list of candidates, Thomas Dimitrioff, I'm going to exclude from that list too because he doesn't. Oh, the rest of them are very exciting candidates. They're up and comers. They're qualified in multiple different areas. They maybe some of them will maybe bring a new perspective. They come from the scouting side. I will say, and everybody's accepted that they've interviewed or that they've requested, except so far John Eric Sullivan. So I do have to say that it has been it's a more. I'd say everybody, let's see, 10 out of 2, so 80% of the guy of this list is super qualified and actually exciting. And I think that is a plus when you were talking about the attractiveness of this job. Because we were worried that there was maybe a lack of attractiveness to this job.
Oh, no, it's only 32. It was going to be.
And there's only 3 technically open right now.
Yeah, there's always going to be an opportunity. First of all, the 3-letter network, their NFL stands for a lot, and everybody wants to work there. So there was going to be candidates. Now, how highly qualified would they be? What was the question to me? And we're seeing now that these guys are all qualified, and ladies, yeah.
Right. Because, and they're all different. I mean, I would say that Catherine Hickman probably has the, I guess, least amount of experience in terms of time. But her experience is multiple verticals and all this kind of stuff. So she's got a, gosh, someone said this, and I want to say that I think it was Will, or it may have been Buck, maybe it's Lucas, but it's more, her resume reads more like Chad Brinker, like a team president kind of resume. And that's what it kind of reads.
Multiple in a lot of different categories. Yeah.
And but none of them are like, specific to one area of general managing.
Oh, no, you better watch out for that woman power. Better watch out.
All right.
I'm telling you.
Listen, when we come back, we'll continue to talk about the Tennessee Titans. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
They tight.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here. 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. Last chance for phone calls if you want to talk Tennessee Titans or, talk about the snow, whatever you want to do.
I know how to go out there and defrost my car, man. Turn my windshield wipers off. Pull them off of the windshield.
I drove my wife's Bronco in today because it has all-wheel drive. No remote start. So I'll be sitting out in the. So I don't know what's going to be like out there, but I'll be maybe sitting out in the parking lot for a while, listen to 3HL.
Well, Brent told me to make sure I get the defrost.
Yeah, so there you go.
The automatic startup.
Okay,
Drew Aller. Oh, that was one game. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm out on Aller." Man, come on! You can't define a player by one game. He's not coming out anyway.
I agree. He's definitely this game cemented that I intend to go back to or tend to come back to college. I think he's intending definitely to come back to college.
That's right. But did they even? He didn't have a completion to a wide receiver.
No, it's all Tyler Ward and the running backs, I guess. Okay, so I got some Friday positivity for you. Friday positivity for you.
Please give it to me. I need it.
There is a 0% chance the Tennessee Titans will draft Carson Beck in this year's draft because he entered the transfer portal and he's going to Miami because that's where his girlfriend's at. So he's following his girlfriend to Miami and getting paid $4 million.
Oh, man, he hit a home run.
So we cleared any chances of the Tennessee Titans actually drafting Carson Beck. So I am extremely happy. So Friday positivity.
Nope, that you just bamboozled yourself.
No, I didn't.
No, here's what happened. They're not going to draft a quarterback this year. They're going to trade back, get Carter, and then next year they're going to draft Carson Beck.
But if that happens, man, I'll be so bad if that happens.
Yeah, it can still happen.
Yeah. That right there would let me know everybody's got to be fired.
Oh, right. No doubt. Well, unless they take him in the second or third round.
I mean, I kind of look at it, and I will say this, Team Ramrod brings this up, and this is something that we talked about the other day, the magical structure of having everyone on the same timeline. What about the Chiefs, Eagles, and Ravens? And I get what he's trying to say, but those guys have historically had good GMs in place, and their coaches either got fired or retired. Like Brian Billick, retired. Howie Roseman fired Andy Reid, had a couple of bad years with Chip Kelly, while Andy Reid went over to the Chiefs. And John Dorsey, he was let go because they had 3 to 4 good GM candidates there. It was just John Dorsey that was there. It was John Dorsey with Brett Veach, Chris Ballard, and Mike Bergonzi. And Mike Bergonzi is about to be a GM more than likely. So, I mean, those are good systems already in place before these coaches got hired. A total difference. We cannot use the outliers to try to support something. That is insane to me.
I can say this, though. There's no one way to, fit for each organization. And so once you find that one way, then just stick with it. So I think that's what she's searching for.
That's been the issue. She's searching for it was the Patriots way. Yeah. Okay, so John Robinson, former Patriots, came from there. Then also came from Tampa Bay as well. But, I mean, cut his teeth with the Patriots. Then they bring in Mike Vrabel. They try to recreate the Patriots way. That dissolved. Then they were going to go spirit of collaboration. Let's bring in the guy from San Francisco and bring in that kind of culture and perspective. The San Francisco way didn't really pan out. Now they're trying the Green Bay way. So maybe the Green Bay way will work out. That's what you got to hope for.
Hopefully. It's worked for them. Just stealing guys from other, I guess, teams and thinking it's going to kind of work the same way. It's just like, ours is not quite like Green Bay. So you got to also understand that. That's not to say it will or won't work, but you just can't pull guys and then just think they're going to then tell you, okay, this is how it all works, and then it works immediately.
I will say this, JR says it rhymes the Green Bay way, and when it rhymes, it's usually a good sign.
Oh, who's JR?
JR in the chat. I don't think that's what he's saying, but I'm just saying, I'm saying that when there's that kind of
J and then R.
Yeah. When there's that kind of, repetitiveness, Green Bay way, usually that is a good sign. But here's the thing about the Green Bay way that as Chad Brinker knows it. Well, I was with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback already when he got there. Right. And then they got Jordan Love after that. So there's no Aaron Rodgers. Well, right now there's no Aaron Rodgers here.
Or is she telling us that she regrets that she didn't hire LaFleur?
I don't know. I mean, maybe she is. And maybe she's just filled with regrets. Not really filled with the regret of hiring Mike Vrabel, but it's filled with the regret of not hiring Matt LaFleur as head coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe she's trying to recreate all that. I don't know. And I hope it works. But this dysfunction starts from up top, like we said at the top of the show. And no matter whatever is happening up at top always permeates throughout the entire building. Factions start to form. Sense of tribalism is allowed because she's not there to put a stop to it. She's there to also taking sides.
And so
that
people are trying to
permeates
take
all the way
advantage.
down.
Yeah, they're trying to take advantage and leverage themselves.
Yeah.
All the way to the top.
Right. I just, hope that this works out in the end. I do.
I'm praying that it does. I'm praying. I want the Titans to win in the worst. That's really, I don't get all upset about the different moves because I'm not in those rooms. But what I do get upset is I just want the Titans to be good and win. I want them to win a Super Bowl. We can't even get into the playoffs. Oh my gosh. I want them to get to a Super Bowl and win it. Just like we got there, but we didn't finish it. Please let me see the organization finish it.
You got to have patience, and it can't just be patience with one person. If you're going to keep Brian Callahan around and you are committed to a rebuild, which I don't see how right now it's not viewed as a rebuild, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're committed to the rebuild, you have to be committed more to Brian Callahan, even in a losing season. Even if it's just a 7-11,
right, you just got to see improvement,
season.
And improvement means we got to get to at least 6-7 wins
because then you're just starting over again. And then what if the next head who from Matt LaFleur's coaching? Who's your Matt LaFleur? What's more likely? Is it that it's Brian Callahan and he just doesn't have an Aaron Rodgers starting out? Because Aaron Rodgers and that roster that Matt LaFleur inherited covered up a lot of flaws that Matt LaFleur, not a lot of flaws, a lot of growing pains that Matt LaFleur went to. Brian Callahan didn't have that roster. He didn't have that quarterback. And his flaws were magnified because of that.
And they had a quarterback and still drafted a quarterback.
So are you going to let Brian Callahan go through his growing pains and get him a better roster? Because it's players over plays. And listen, Matt LaFleur has turned into a great head coach.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, man, his time clock management was terrible. His in-game management, besides just that, was terrible. He got carried through by Aaron Rodgers at the very beginning. And that entire roster is a great roster. And that's fine. That can happen. And that's good. But you know what also that they do up in Green Bay? They have patience with their head coaches no matter what, even in the down years. At some point, the Tennessee Titans have to have patience even in the down years.
Preach. I'm with you.
You got anything to add?
No, that's it. You did it all.
Joseph, you have anything to add?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Guess what? I got to get out on the road. I got to travel back up to Goodlettsville. And it's getting worse and worse as the day goes on. So we're going to get out there. So everybody stay safe.
Yeah, no doubt.
Stay warm.
And pray for those guys out on the West Coast.
If you don't know how to drive in the snow and the ice, stay off the roads because I'm coming up that Interstate 65, and I don't want to see anybody out there that doesn't know how to drive.
Yeah, flag them down.
Yeah.
And tell them to help you.
Yeah, there you go. 3HL's up next. They're in the studio. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.